Good evening, everyone. Today we're talking about students and stress. So we've got a really great presentation for you, whether you've got an elementary, middle, or high schooler. Even if you've got a college student, all of us have been feeling stressed for about the last 18 months, and this is no different. What we're going to see today are some methods and also a little bit of analysis. I kind of blended two presentations, if you would. I wanted us to really get the background on what stress is all about when we're talking about students. Sometimes we tend to think, oh, my student is quiet, so they're not feeling any stress, or maybe they are seen to be performing as they always were, but they're really burying their feelings a little bit, or that stress that they're feeling, because just like we adults have been feeling stress for the last 18 months, students also have been feeling different sorts of stress. And if they're not able to express it or it doesn't come out, sometimes they're holding it down, pressing it down inside of them, and that's not healthy either. It's not healthy for us, but it's definitely not healthy for them. Got a couple of interesting things that we want to talk about. I'm calling this back to school essentials because I think it is really important that we talk to our kids what it is that they need and what it is that they want. The other thing that we want to make sure of is, are they getting the information that they need to identify stress? Because sometimes kids don't even realize that they're stressed, which is really a kind of a much more complicated issue. Okay, so for those of you who have children in school, whether it's all the way from elementary, all the way up through college, maybe graduate school, maybe you've got a kid who's going back now and they're a little bit older, but they're going to go back and study, let me know in the chat. I've got one university student and he actually starts classes today. So that's a really exciting thing. We're going to talk about school stress, as I mentioned, but we're also going to talk about a couple of other things. Before we continue, please be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notifications on all our new videos. In addition, follow us on Instagram. Thanks so much for your support. Tell me in the chat, do you have a student in school? And if you don't have a student in school, I guess I want to hear that too, because I'd really love to know. Okay, so welcome to class. Obviously, if we haven't met before, I'm Elena Jordan. Today, I'm talking about getting motivated to help our kids to identify stress. I'm super motivated to help families to naturally improve their family's health, to improve their own health, and to work with families and children and individuals to help them make a difference in their lives. So many people now are looking for answers, and I think dōTERRA gives us a lot of the answers that we need. Essential oils and also natural health products can be some of the greatest gifts to us as individuals and also as families. So I hope today is going to be the beginning of a stress-free life for you and for your children. First thing we want to talk about is why I chose dōTERRA, right? I really chose it because it has zero fillers, no synthetics, no dyes, no pesticides or contaminants. Big deal for me, especially when my kids were really little. I started using this when my kids were about 4 and 7, long time ago, but it really made a big difference for me. Essential oils, at least dōTERRA, our essential oils are pure, unadulterated, and grown in their native habitats. So they're grown in their indigenous lands, and dōTERRA works closely with farmers to make sure that we're getting a product that is pure and natural every time. We have a standard of promise of purity, right, called CPTG. I'm going to talk about that in about a minute, but I want to talk to you basically about oils in the classrooms. So there've been several studies that have been done. Some of them are more scientific. We're going to talk about one of those in a minute. And others of them are more what I'll call anecdotal. We're always looking for the science, right? Because that's where we can go back to. But there is a woman named Jessa Johnson, interestingly enough. She's a dōTERRA wellness advocate. She's been around for a while. In 2012, she started using, actually what she did was she prepared a clean hands spray for her child and also to give to the classroom teachers. And you can imagine what was in there: a little bit of probably some On Guard essential oil, maybe a little bit of glycerin and some water. And she gave it to every classroom and teacher, which was super generous. I don't know if this might have been before actually our dōTERRA spray our pre-made doTERRA spray was made available. But the interesting thing is, if you're thinking about schools, you want to probably think about large size. So I'm sure she made that sort of a spray. She donated this clean hand spray. Her kids were going to the Castle Rock School in Colorado. This is around 14, 15, and you can actually read about this in some of our magazines. But needless to say, what they started noticing was that they had a reduced number of absences for students and teachers. And out of 19 teachers, less than 14 leave days were used during the 2015-16 school year. So that's less than half that had been used in previous years. And I'm actually going to copy that now, and I'm going to stick it in the chat. So if you're interested, you can look this up. And I'm hearing from a couple of people that are saying, yes, they've got grad school, they've got pre-uni students starting final exams. Oh my gosh, that's really tough. I was actually talking to my daughter yesterday on the phone, who is working full time, but she announced, I think maybe I'll start studying for my graduate school exams. And I thought, oh, here it goes. But you know what? It's all good, right? If they want more education and they're able to qualify for it, then I think we're on the right track. Right? So we always talk about source to you, or a little bit about source to you. It does allow us to get the highest quality essential oils and make a positive difference in the lives of farmers, harvesters, and distillers who contribute to dōTERRA's oil production. I've got another quote. I've got another source for you right here that we can check it out. These sources, she will actually give you quality reports on every single essential oil that you have in your possession. As you know, if you flip over the bottle, there's a code on the bottom of the bottle. You go on to sourcetoyou.com. Oh, sorry, I missed the website there. I gave you some info, but no website. Check this out. How about that? If you go onto the website, you can, there you go. You can go into the website, type in that code, and that code will give you information on your particular bottle. So that's really cool. It tells you where the oils came from, when they were harvested, where they were harvested. It's just an amazing system. I do not know how dōTERRA maintains that system. It is a big job, but they do a good job of it. And we're able to get a lot more information than we otherwise would be able to get. Test our stress. So I'm going to give you this test in the chat. And what I'd like you to do now is quickly, if you can, I'm going to give you a minute to test your stress. And if you can't test your stress right now, maybe you're, I don't know, on the metro, or you are about to get into bed. But basically what the 10 questions are going to give you is an assessment of where your stress level is at. So I look at this student. He looks like he might be young university or secondary school, late secondary school. He is smiling, looking at his phone. I have to say, my kids are always smiling when they're looking at their phone, but I do feel like there is a lot of stress for them, especially from phones and social media. They're comparing themselves with other people, especially now when they've been isolated from classmates and other friends because of different rules and regulations. It's important for them to feel like, you know what, I'm connected and I'm going to be okay. So that's a really big deal for them. You want to make sure that in the long run, they are getting the information that they need about their own stress levels, right? Without always relying on their friends. I know that's a little bit tricky, but it's something that you want to make sure that they're able to get the information that they need and not always be relying on their friends, because sometimes their friends give them crazy information, right? That may not be that good. So the stress test is going to be a really good one. If you can quickly take that stress test, it would be terrific. And then let me know what kind of a score you got. Now I'm going to preempt by saying I got a pretty low score, but I'm not bragging about it because I know that in years past, I've actually gotten really high scores on these kind of stress tests. But lately, I've been taking additional steps in my life to make sure that my stress levels are falling. The night before my son left for school, I was super sad. I have to tell you, I just was feeling the stress of getting him ready and him leaving and so on. And I wanted to cry. In fact, I did cry. But I found afterwards, I was able to bounce back. And sometimes when we're under a lot of stress, we're not able to bounce back. I attribute that to a couple of different things: taking supplements on a regular basis, getting regular exercise. And I have honestly been changing my diet to a more plant-based whole foods diet. And now, while I wasn't a junk food eater per se, I realized that there were a lot of things that I was probably eating that I thought were healthy, but were really not that healthy at all. Even things like eliminating certain ingredients in my diet have really made the difference. I can see kind of, I don't know, more clarity. And even though I'm not immune to stress and I have seen stress in my life, certainly, I'm feeling like I can manage it a little bit better. So if you've taken the quiz, give me an idea of, or you're still taking it, give me an idea. It's going to help you to gauge your level of stress and maybe even your students' level of stress. And let's start talking about how stress affects our kids. So number one is, what's stress? So let's start defining it in psychological terms. Stress is a reaction in the body that can be triggered by many factors, whether they're physical or psychological. No matter the type of stress we experience, the body responds the same way. So you may have heard of course, the fight or flight response used to describe a chemical reaction that goes on in the body that occurs in response to stress. Now, as I've said many times on this presentation, good stress and bad stress, the body really doesn't know the difference. If you have, I don't know, your son is getting or daughter are getting married, you could say happy stress, right? We're really excited, moving to a new house, happy stress. But down deep, all the preparations, the interactions with other people, the interactions with the other families, all of those can cause good stress. Graduating from college, same thing. You could say, university, I did it, right? But that idea of what's the next step? Do I have a job? Starting a new job. Also, I got a new job, but there's that yin and yang, right? There's that kind of that plus and minus that we feel both sides of it. Flight or fright response is an instantaneous sequence of hormonal changes. While it's evolutionary, its response and has served humans really well. The body reacts to both life-threatening and non-life-threatening threats the same way, right? So one of the reasons why chronic stress is so harmful to our overall health, and I have to say many of us have been living under chronic stress now for a year plus. Now, so let's now talk a little bit about, there we go, the process of stress. So what happens in the brain? When stress is perceived, the amygdala alerts the hypothalamus, and the amygdala is responsible for processing memory, decision-making, and emotional reactions. Once the hypothalamus is triggered, a rush of hormones like epinephrine and cortisol are released. Epinephrine is also known as adrenaline and triggers increased lung and heart activity and blood flow to your brain, making you feel more awake and aware, which can be a good thing if you really are under stress, right? Like you're about to be hit by a car. You want to be able to dash out of the way. And cortisol changes the way our body breaks down glucose and regulates blood pressure, giving your body the burst of energy characteristic in a fight or flight response. So the difference between what happens typically in our body, right? We see a threat, we react, and then we relax again, is not what's been happening lately. What's been happening lately is we have this chronic sense of disquiet or discomfort, and that's what's causing us to continue to feel these stress levels. What I'd like also to be able to, oh dear, what did I do now? There we go. Okay. What I'd like to hear is if you've taken the stress test, let me know. I'm kind of looking in the chat. Anybody want to tell me about their stress test? If you didn't take it yet, that's okay, but save that link and take it a little bit later. So let's also talk about the effects of stress. So what are some of the long-term effects of stress? And I have to say, this young man looking in the opposite direction kind of reminds me of my son at certain points in his school career, that idea of, I don't want to talk about it. And how many of you actually go through that process of feeling the stress, knowing that you're stressed, but saying, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to burden anybody else. I'm just going to keep it to myself. not the best reaction, right? Stress can provoke a variety of responses ranging from physical, emotional, behavioral, and cognitive responses. So two people experiencing stress may have different reactions. Physical responses can include things like sweating, increased heart rate or blood pressure, muscle tension, headaches, or stomach aches. Emotional responses can include things like hostility, helplessness, or loneliness. Who among us hasn't felt some of these during the last year and a half? Behavioral responses like binge eating or loss of appetite, even sometimes drug or alcohol use, or erratic sleep. And then finally, cognitive changes, memory loss, poor concentration, and a negative outlook. We're going to help our kids to not feel these. Excuse me, I'm talking so fast. My mouth is drying out. I'm drinking my cold coffee this morning, folks. The picture, though, is not all bleak, right? We're going to go a little bit deeper into some of these effects, but then we want to really help our kids, and I'm going to show you some ways out, right? So student-specific stress. So now you're getting an idea of how stress can negatively impact the life of a student. Another reason that stress can present is that students often don't have coping mechanisms because they're so young. They haven't learned the coping mechanisms that we as adults have begun to develop, right? So that's why it's important for us to teach coping mechanisms, including the use of essential oils, right? We don't want them to fall into any sort of traps of lack of sleep that brings on lost concentration. Older students can be tempted to use maybe drugs or alcohol. None of those things are productive. We want to make sure that we are helping our students to cope with the stress that they feel. Some of the stress reactions that people will often, I have to say, my son and my daughter tend to be completely different. My son is the one who sits on the curb and, tries to hold it all in. My daughter is the one who's kind of my weeping willow. And when she feels stressed, we always know it. Neither one of those are right or wrong. They're just the way that they deal with stress, but we want to help kids to deal with their stress productively and also learn coping mechanisms. Okay, so let's talk quickly about some stress disorders, right? So, and we're going to talk about some of the ways you can overcome them. Serious disorders, things like depression, anxiety, sleep disorders, certainly substance abuse, must get professional help for your child or for yourself, right? Want to make sure that if you're really experiencing a severe stress disorder, that you're getting professional help. But how do we help our kids really to just manage their stress? We have a couple of things that can affect stress, things like sleep, diet, exercise, stimulants, right? Expectations and procrastination. So we as parents very often have expectations for our kids, but our kids have expectations for themselves. They've internalized the expectations that we have for them. And honestly, that's something that they're going to carry with them for the rest of their lives. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. My kid, as you know, we have a really big family, and my kids will often talk to their older cousins. They're one of the younger ones of the cousin lineup, about what types of expectations our family has as a whole. So my children were very blessed to have a lot of uncles and aunts that have led very successful and productive lives. And I think this next generation sometimes looks at that older generation and says, how am I going to do that? How am I going to achieve the things that my uncles and aunts and maybe my parents achieved? And sometimes while they cannot or they shouldn't be looking at someone's life 40 years from now and expecting that they're going to be able to jump in at that level now. Because of the advent of social media, it's very easy. It's a slippery slope. We look at someone who's way ahead of us and we think, we should be there. Same thing is true sometimes in doTERRA. We look at someone who's a diamond or a presidential diamond and we think we should be there. But the reality is we have to take each step as it comes. We do have control over many of these factors. Like I said, sleep, exercise, and so on. Let's talk a little bit about how we can manage them and how they can impact our stress. So number one on the hit parade is always, always, always the importance of sleep. The body needs sleep to perform optimally, and poor sleep impairs judgment and reasoning and causes difficulty managing emotions, which exasperates stressful situations. I know a lot of people have upside down sleep schedules. They're sleeping, into 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they're up all night. We've got to help them to reduce those patterns. Now that school is starting again, most of them are not going to be able to do that anymore because school starts at a regular hour. But the idea really is for them to get enough sleep so that they're able to feel rested and relaxed. I had heard a long time ago, and I don't know where this study is from, that every hour of sleep before midnight is actually worth 2 hours. So you want to make sure that your kids and you are getting to bed at a normal hour. Even if you're getting to sleep by 11, you're getting 2 hours for that extra hour before midnight. So for those of you who are early risers, I want to hear from you. If you tend to be a night owl, let me know. And the other thing I want to hear is how many hours of sleep are you getting? Because I'm usually getting, I have to say, I'm pretty much like clockwork. I would say about 7 hours for me. I don't know. I get into bed, I fall asleep. When I wake up, it's 7 hours later. I don't know. I have a pretty good sleep routine. Thank goodness. I am really very grateful. So there's a big difference in the amount of sleep you can get and the amount that you can survive on and the amount you can thrive on, right? So according to the National Institutes of Health, teens ages 14 to 17 need about 8 to 10 hours of sleep each night. And over 18, you need between 7 and 9 hours. So I'm sort of on that lower edge, but never less than 7 hours. If I get less than 7 hours, I feel like a mess. On Saturday, we had to bring my son to the airport at 4 a.m. I know it was crazy. We were all up at 3 and driving him to the airport. Luckily, there was no traffic on a Saturday morning. But it really upset my sleep schedule. I actually came home after dropping him at the airport and went back to sleep for a couple of hours to just kind of get myself in gear. It's funny because as I was driving home and we were about a half an hour away from the house, I thought to myself, wow, it's only 5:30 in the morning. Maybe I'll go to the gym now. And between that, I don't know, that thought and arriving in the house, I thought, no, actually, I need to get back into my bed and get a little bit more sleep because I'd only gotten about 3 or 4 hours. It was not good. So techniques for additional sleep: stick to a regular sleep schedule and encourage your student to do the same. Going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time, even on weekends. You can support your biological clock. And a lot of what this is supporting our biological clock and making sure that we get the same amount of sleep on a regular basis. Be physically active. Now, I know that can mean different things to different people. Yesterday, it was a pouring rainy day here in New Jersey. We actually thought we had a hurricane going through. Turned out to be a tropical storm, at least where I was. If you're further south or further east from me, some of you may have experienced hurricane-like winds, maybe even a little farther north. So I hope you're doing okay today. We were extremely lucky. We had pouring torrential rains all day long. It was like a deluge, but today we are safe and sound. And I also have lights and water and internet, which very often in these big storms, many trees, I live in a very wooded area, many trees will come down and we'll lose all of that. So I'm able to be with you today. Thanks to God, really. And also thanks to the fact that we didn't see a lot of wind, because wind is usually the thing that brings trees down. Now, I'm not driving around yet, so I don't know what my whole neighborhood is like, but I have to say the fact that I'm here is really a big deal. Let's talk a little bit more about sleep techniques. You want to avoid stimulants close to bedtime. Stimulants can include caffeine or sugary beverages or foods. Also, sometimes screen time. You want to get your room dark, quiet, cool, and free from clutter. Isn't that interesting? That clutter can actually affect how we sleep. Are we resting or not sleeping? I also find keeping a notebook near my bed can help me to clear my mind. If something tends to, boom, pop into my head, I'm not sure what I should do with it. Notebook is right there. I can write in some scribbly scrawl, just even 1 or 2 words so that I can allow my mind to relax. Otherwise, I get into bed, the thing is kind of plaguing me. I don't know. Call my aunt, call my aunt, and then I don't sleep, or I'm kind of, I've got to remember, and I don't wind up sleeping very well. If I just jot it down on that notebook, boom, I'm able to relax because I know it's in the notebook. Other things include creating a bedtime routine for your student or yourself. If you have trouble sleeping, you avoid using your smart devices at bedtime. Find a calming activity such as a warm bath or reading a book. And obviously don't start a book that's really a page turner, because it's going to be harder for you to get to sleep. Let's talk a little bit about eating well and what we can do to eat well to make sure we are handling stress. Things like green leafy vegetables, even whole grains like oatmeal, blueberries, dark chocolate, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, and sunflower seeds, and avocado have all been proven now to help us with good sleep. Who would have thought it, right? But there have been lots of studies done showing especially a plant-based whole food diet really can help us with our sleep and with our relaxation and managing of stress. We know about the power of exercise, right? Physical options, just get active, right? The beauty of exercise is you can do any activity. You just want to make sure that you're doing, and your kids are doing activities that they love, whether it's riding bicycles with family or anything. These kids are kind of young, but even older kids can be out and riding bicycles and doing different things. Let's also ease up on the caffeine. I find that older students specifically tend not to be doing that well with caffeine. I've caught my son more than once with a giant iced coffee. I mean, it's enough to honestly take a bath, and have said to him several times, okay, not a good idea. Let's really ratchet that down, or let's make it a decaf. In our house, we actually brew our coffee so that it's half caffeinated, half decaf. Maybe it's a psychological thing, but I think I drink a little bit less. It's not quite as strong, super tasty, but just not quite as strong. And so that allows me also, if I'm cutting back my caffeine at the end of the day. I do like green tea. I probably don't drink enough of it, but I'm trying to get a few sips in during the day. If you have a preferred caffeinated beverage, let me know in the chat, because I'd love to hear about it. David says that his stress score is 18, moderate. Okay. Anybody else wants to tell us the, yes. Can you tell us your scores if you took your test? Being tempted to grab an energy drink. This is a big deal with kids. They love those energy drinks, things like sodas with high caffeine contents, or those little bottles of things that they sell in grocery stores and garages or petrol stations. Not good, folks. You want to really be able to manage your stress levels and your need for caffeine naturally. Stimulants can increase cortisol levels in the body, increasing effects of stress on the body. For our older students, you might want to consider giving them something like Mitotemax in the morning. Even just 2 capsules of Mitotemax have great antioxidants and also can give them sort of that natural boost. The other thing that I've tried in the morning for both of my kids is turmeric. Turmeric is an anti-inflammatory. The turmeric dual chamber capsules from dōTERRA. Did you like the way I did that? Really make a big difference, reducing inflammation, helping my kids feel a little bit more energetic. I like the idea of maybe combining or alternating with the Mitotemax capsules. Last thing is we're going to talk about 2 more things, and then I'm going to give you a few more recommendations. Set your expectations. So parents, I'm speaking specifically to you, but I'm speaking to kids also. As we set the expectations for our kids, what they should do, what they shouldn't do, we've got to kind of sometimes take our foot off the gas a little bit. Kids are under enough stress as it is, having been home for 18 months, really doesn't help them in any sort of, they, in the back of their mind, I'm sure that they are thinking, I've got to get good grades. I've got to score well on the test score. We've got to help them to manage the expectations. Life is not running away from them. They have plenty of time. They can get their work done. A busy schedule can be a major stressor. So we may want to help them to reduce some of the activities here in the US. Sports, as you know, are a crazy, I don't know, sports are like practically religion here. It's really crazy. And kids can get very overstressed with all sorts of activities, whether they are studying activities or sports or musical instruments or being theater productions. Being busy with a lot of activities doesn't allow kids to just rest, relax, and ratchet down and concentrate on the thing that's the most important. We went through a real soul searching, I would say, in our house at the end of middle school. So around the times my kids were between, say, 12 and 15, and just started saying, okay, you know what? We got to start dropping some activities. The activities become more difficult, right? They're more of a challenge for the child, and they also take more time. And it's at that time where you start to kind of winnow away, just like we do as adults, right? And say, let's begin to drop certain things so we can concentrate a little bit more and also give time to our kids to just relax and relax their brains. So as parents, we want to kind of take our foot off the gas a little bit if we can, managing our own expectations for our kid, and then maybe talk about to your kids what their expectation is for themselves. So trying to make a list of your expectations, or maybe ask your child to make a list of their expectations and go through the list together. What's reasonable and achievable? If you're expecting to ace an assignment as a student, make sure you set enough time aside to be able to dedicate to that assignment. And expectations come from many sources. Sometimes they can come from our parents, right? What's my mom's expectation for me? And is that another pressure that's coming onto my child? Even friends and teachers, well-meaning as they may be, can help to set expectations for our kids that may be unreasonable. So we want our kids to have expectations they are realistic and manageable, and expectations for ourselves, of course. Also, don't procrastinate. This, I have to say, this is one of the biggest things for adults and for kids. Procrastination is the easiest way to get yourself into a stressful situation. It's easy to put tasks off until later. Many of us in dōTERRA do this. We wait until the last week of the month and then think, oh, I have enrolled somebody, or I have to host a class, or what am I going to do? I have to pursue something. Start early enough in the month. Today is the 23rd. So it is, yes, literally the last week of the month. Start today, it's Monday, or start tomorrow, Tuesday morning, and just begin to power through those tasks. And then next month in September, we know it's going to be a busy month because we know that convention is starting in the second week of September. So we want to make sure we're leaving ourselves enough time to do the tasks at hand. Don't procrastinate, folks, because while we want to ease up on our expectations, we do have to actually get things done, right? Many students and adults think that they can wait until the last minute, and it isn't harmful, but we're being unprepared and trying to rush causes us to make mistakes that inevitably lead to more stress and can lead to poor outcomes. If you're a person who tends to procrastinate, try setting deadlines for yourself, maybe making a notation for yourself on your phone or in some sort of a notebook to break up those tasks during the month. It's very easy to start the month on a high. Woohoo! Last month is gone and the new month is here. But setting those expectations for yourself early in the month and not procrastinating can help you to get to a better outcome at the end of the month. How many classes do you need to host? How many people do you need to talk to? The same is true for our students. Try completing the tasks you want to do least and get them out of the way first, right? You'll feel relieved and you won't be scrambling at the end of the month. Same thing is true, of course, for our students. So let's talk about health, right? Quickly, let's talk about food. We can't avoid stress, as we know, but we know things like eating better, getting enough sleep, being physically active are ways to reduce and manage stress. And the key is to find a balance between tasks you must complete and the ones you want to do. So number one on the hit parade is let's energize our students' morning. So this is a little teeny girl here, but things like citrus bliss, elevation, Balance, peppermint, wild orange, and On Guard, putting those into rotation in their morning. Students begin to expect the smells and the aromas or the sensations that they get from applying essential oils in the morning that really can energize them. I love that sensation of get out of bed, right? Ready to go. We have something that we want to do. So using peppermint and wild orange, perhaps in a diffuser, or putting balance on their feet, putting balance on our feet, but getting into that get out of bed, energize our morning routine can be a positive one. We've got some foundations for health, of course, for kids. I haven't talked about these in a while, but I think it's worth talking about. Our chewable vitamins and our IQ Mega. Chewable, it's obviously a proprietary formula, but we can use it. Actually, two different types of people can use it. Kids can use it, or adults that have difficulty swallowing. Adults, the chewable tablets, you can just put it in your mouth and crush it up. Or if you're someone who really has difficulty with chewing, you can also break up the tablet and they can kind of let it melt on the tongue. The IQ Mega is made with orange flavor of wild orange essential oil. Very easy to take. A child would be taking only 1 teaspoon a day, and it contains 1,000 milligrams of concentrated omega-3 fatty acids, really good for the brain. They've also been purified to make sure that there are no toxins. They're not full of, neither product is full of sugar, like many mainstream kids vitamins. You see the kind of gummy bears and all these sweetie things. It really feels good to give them something that's positive for them. And consider using these vitamins if you have a team, for your older team members. Don't forget all the products that are available to us and that can be a positive addition to any lifestyle. We want to also support our students' immune system, give them some immune support. I like this one. Excuse me, I'm adding this into the chat. There we go. You can, in a 10 milliliter roll-on bottle, you can include 10 drops of frankincense, melaleuca, lemon, and On Guard, and be rolling it on every day. I would apply it, mix it with fractionated coconut oil, obviously, apply to the bottoms of the feet and the thymus gland. So we know that the thymus is right here, kind of at the base of the neck. I don't know if you can see it, but what you want to make sure is you're supporting your glands, because that's where our hormones are created. We want our stress hormones to be as low as possible. So where are our major glands? Thymus glands right here, adrenals sort of right below the belt on our back, right? Glands under our arms. The easiest ones are going to be the adrenals back here and the thymus. We can't put things on the pituitary gland. We can try putting on the crown of our head, but it's not necessarily going to soak through the scalp. But just that idea of applying essential oils on the glands to help support the stress responses for ourselves and for our kids. You may also want to make sure that you're either sending your child with a DIY hand gel or providing it for them for a classroom situation. The thing that I find about many of the over-the-counter gels is that they're filled with chemicals. They are just really filled with chemicals, and that's kind of a scary thing. Here's a quick recipe that you can use, and you can blend everything that's in the, whoops. Wendy says, these oils for de-stress, the previous ones, yes, they are for de-stress. And the ones I'm putting up now are actually for creating a do-it-yourself, what is this thing called? I guess a hand gel for getting germs off your hands. The ones that we get in stores are very often have ingredients that I wouldn't even want to repeat. They also have a lot of strong alcohol. Don't love alcohol on the hands of very small children. Even for us, it can be extremely drying. You can use the pre-made spray of doTERRA with the On Guard spray, but this gel is sort of magical because it contains aloe vera and the vitamin E, which are going to keep your hands really nice and moist. You can use On Guard. If your kid hates On Guard, doesn't really like the smell, or feels like it's a little too strong, use lemon oil. It's going to be just as, and it says here in that recipe, it says 4 tablespoons of water. If you feel that you want to include alcohol in there, you could increase swap out 2 of the tablespoons of water with 2 tablespoons of alcohol. The oils for immune support are frankincense, melaleuca, lemon, and on guard. If you don't have the chat open, take a look at the chat. Everything, I'm trying to post everything in the chat. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm able to now post in 2 different accounts. So you're going to see me talking as myself, Elaine Jordan, and then that second account, the Diamond Circle account, that's the one where we're posting in the chat. Okay, what are your kids' future plans? This sounds actually kind of funny because we've got the crayons next to it, but their microbiome, right? The health of their gut really is going to determine a lot of things about their future health. We want to make sure, obviously, that they're getting fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grains, but we also want to make sure that their microbiome is being supported on a regular basis. That includes the fiber, that's the prebiotic that they're getting on a daily basis from those fruits and vegetables. And then the probiotic sachets can be just the thing that they need. I read an article just recently saying that if you have taken antibiotics, your microbiome may be depressed for as long as 2 years. So if you or your child has taken antibiotics recently, you may want to consider really upping your game in terms of probiotic foods like kimchi or sauerkraut or other fermented vegetables. Or taking your PB Assist on a regular basis. So this is our PB Assist Junior. As you know, it contains 5 billion live cells of unique 6 different probiotic strains specifically selected for their benefits for children. If you're an adult and in general you love sweet things, this is a cool way to incorporate some extra oomph into your diet. I keep the probiotics in a cup just like this on our counter, and during the day or in the evening, if I want something sweet, or I remember, you know what, I think I need a little bit of extra probiotic boost, I grab a sachet and I take it. You do not have to mix it in water. You can, if you wish, of course, or you can add it into a smoothie. You can just take those little grains and put them right on your tongue. It's like a sweetie, if you will, and they really are very effective. And in general, kids love them. So we're going back to one of the original topics, which is, can oils improve classroom behavior? So this is I'm going to post this here for you so you can see the original study. It was published in the fall 2004 magazine, Living Magazine for dōTERRA. I'm sorry, 2014, not 2004. What am I talking about? A young girl actually published an article, Can Oils Improve Classroom Behavior? So a young girl in 3rd grade in California, she is a dōTERRA enthusiast, and her purpose was to prove whether certain essential oils can improve focus, test scores, and overall classroom behavior. Before she could bring her project to life, she had to receive an official approval from the students' parents, the district school board, and the county board. And the research delivered incredible results and landed Fallon a 1st place ribbon. So I'm super excited to see a couple of different things. So this was her method. You can see her board in the back there. She gave essential oils to 20 students and 1 teacher. They gave them a short survey and so on, and a diffuser in the classroom was kept in the same location during the course of the study, only changing the essential oils. During the 1st week, peppermint with wild orange daily. 2nd week, rosemary with peppermint. 3rd week, citrus blend, so citrus bliss, which was everyone's favorite. And to keep track of the results, students completed the same survey at the end of each week. Fallon's teacher helped her with averaging class math test scores and survey results. And let's take a look at what they discovered. This is actually kind of cute, I have to say. So over the course of the study, most of the class felt less tired, seemed more alert, and students had an easier time remembering answers and paying attention during lessons. The class average for math tests jumped from 83.5 to 93.1. That's pretty good by the end of the 2nd week. And it says, my study shows that diffusing essential oils improves our class behavior. We're able to remember our answers and stay focused throughout the day. So the 3 things: increased focus and alertness, improved overall mood, and math test score improvement by 10%. It's a big jump, right? Just for 3 weeks. Okay. So peppermint for re-energizing, wild orange to improve mood, and finally rosemary to reduce fatigue, improve focus and concentration. So whether your child is in public school, private school, or you're a homeschool mom, or you've got a university student, encourage your students. This looks like it would be a really fun study to be able to duplicate perhaps at home. Let's talk a little bit about overstimulation. Perfect oils to support your child while staying mentally and emotionally balanced include things like Intune, rosemary, lemongrass, peppermint, clary sage, vetiver, and frankincense. So I'm going to actually post these for you in the chat because I know everybody's going to ask me. Here you go. Got some great staying mentally and emotionally balanced. We want to include those in a diffuser, applying them topically on pulse points, on the feet, back of the neck, and again, over the glands. The glands are super important. We want to make sure that we're supporting our child's hormonal system because that's the one that's going to affect them as they experience that fight or flight response. Serenity is for everyone. Serenity, also known as lavender peace outside of the United States, perfect gift for your child's teacher, or when they feel like your kid feels, or you feel like pulling your hair out of your head because things aren't going the way you want. You can put it in your bathtub. You can put it in a diffuser. You can apply it. We can use the moisturizing bath bar. There's a lot of ways to incorporate serenity into our daily routine. So I think it's a must-have in my daily arsenal. I use it every single solitary day. A lot of times I just pop the capsules at the end of the day, but I really do love my Serenity / lavender piece. We talked a lot about sleep. A couple of things that you can consider, oils that you can consider when you're talking about sleep are the Calmer roll-on. And we're going to talk in about a minute, we're going to talk about the kids collection, Serenity or lavender piece, marjoram, vetiver, and lavender, of course. I'm giving you this. Oops. There we go. Okay. I hope everyone's in the chat. We've got a lot of things in the chat. Is everybody still out there? Yes. Okay. We're going to talk really quickly about, feelings of nervousness. So who doesn't feel nervousness? Number one on the hit parade for nervousness, I think, is cedarwood. It smells really well. It smells really beautiful. It's wonderful for men and boys. It also doesn't smell girly. So if they need to apply something when they're feeling stressed or anxious, cedarwood is a great addition to any, you could add it to a lotion. You could put it in a diffuser, apply to the soles of the feet. You can rub it behind your child's ears before they leave for school, but cedarwood is a great relaxer. Another one is DDR Prime. Now, DDR Prime in a glass of water for a little kid like this might be a tough sell. Got a couple of people popping on and saying that their score is 15. They've got moderate stress. So take some of the tips that we've been talking about in the during this presentation and incorporate them in your own life. If there's something that you haven't been using, or maybe a strategy that you haven't thought about before, try incorporating it into your own life. It is a really dynamic, right? I think that's a good word. Dynamic way of helping yourself to become better and healthier. DDR Prime Essential Oil Complex blends certain essential oils to provide healthy cellular integrity. It includes clove, thyme, and wild orange, and frankincense, lemongrass, summer savory, and niaouli. Once you take the test, somebody's asking, how do you know your score? When you get to the end, it's going to say, get my score, and you're going to take the test. The test is all the way back at the beginning of the chat. 1 to 2 drops to citrus drinks, teas, or water. You can also apply it to the soles of your feet. I like it perhaps in the capsule form, and I do take this for oxidative stress that has basically built up over time and accumulated itself in our cells. Kids collection. We love the kids collection. It has lots of great essential oils and blends. Thinker, when it's time to get creative and focused to support the mind and enhance learning, right? Calmer for bedtime, rolling on the soles of the feet and onto the wrists. Stronger on the back of the neck or bottoms of the feet for an added boost or protection when someone is not feeling their best. Rescuer onto the legs, feet, or back to soothe an active body. Steady for daily centering or for times when they feel nervous, rubbing on the neck or the wrist to calm and comfort emotions. Brave before new or different situations or just to start off the day. And finally, Tamer, that's the newest one of the whole system, on the tummy for upset stomachs. So last but not least, a reminder for parents, always consider that adult skin is not kid skin. So if you are applying essential oils onto your child, especially younger children, make sure that it's blended with fractionated coconut oil. Kids in general, as they age, will have the same sort of skin as adults. We're talking about older children, older children, ages 12 and up or 15 and up, their skin will be very resilient. Even so, make sure that they're testing a small patch before they're getting started with any essential oil regimen. So here we go. There we've got a peppermint oil. I have to say the one thing that my son went to college with or went to university with this year was another whole load of peppermint essential oil. That was the one thing that he wanted to make sure that he had tons of peppermint essential oil with him. And I'm sure it's helping him in terms of concentration and motivation, but also he's in Texas, folks, and it's really hot. It has been about just under 100 degrees in Dallas almost every day, which is, I think, 38. Is that right? Or 37? It's just been super hot. And I know this week is going to be no different. So that peppermint oil really is a great addition to his daily routine. Thank you again. Here's one of our older students. Thanks for joining me today. I can't really overstate the importance of managing stress and helping our kids to manage their stress. I'm proud of every single one of you for taking the steps, not just to be here, but to help our students and to help yourselves and take some of those recommendations to heart, eating a better diet, sleeping a little bit well. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you so much for having been here. There we go. Okay, so I'm back. We are in our last few minutes of the presentation. We've had a really wonderful day. Lots of people coming on the chat to tell me that they took the test. They're about to take the test, which is, I love that. I love the fact that everybody kind of jumped in to see the test. If you can't find the test or you're not sure where it is, scroll all the way back to the beginnings of the comments and you'll be able to see it. It's in the chat. So you know how to open the chat. It's right at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So we're going to say farewell to everybody who's with us on YouTube. Click the subscribe button and ring the bell to get weekly notifications. For all of you that are still on live, stay tuned because we're going to be picking a winner this week for a really great prize, as always. And if you're watching this on YouTube, consider getting on the live. Find someone who can recommend you and get you those codes so you can get on the live every single solitary week. Have a wonderful week and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye now.